So did he fill a partial?
There you go. Well, thank you. Thank you. And it's orange.
Was that for 2 years? But it's that way. Ours is for a while. Because I did a partial.
Yeah, right, correct.
What was the difference between ours? It was only like 15 or something, much less than that.
What's that?
Wait, 14. I don't know.
I lost emails by I think 17 or something. It was less than
Both my elections have been close.
Okay.
And we have always had a big turnout too.
The other question was, I assume you're supposed to see that myself, there was a line clearance issue. They felt like it was, but they didn't really do anything. He said, he's happy to move it, it's not a, it's not big like it. He doesn't want to move it, so find out. They're all the best, it's basically, it's that way. So, is there? Okay, all right. Yeah, sorry about that. I think it's one of those hours. And it is. And he admits it, Roger. He's not jerk about it or anything. I think he knows that it's right on the house. He doesn't. I think he's being overly literal perhaps, but what they told him was it can't be right on the hour. Oh, yeah, I guess he's more guidance on it. So, I appreciate that. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, see that? Also, you know, he felt like the letter said just get 30 days. So I don't discourage him from trying to do the right thing, but it's not like after 30 days or any time like the thing, you know. No. He just doesn't learn how 30 troubles. No. How are you? Out there. Out there. Yeah.
Call this meeting to order. Will those in attendance please rise? Join us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues in joining us in this regularly scheduled June 20th, 2022 City Council meeting. As you come in, the door that would be to my right, which is all to all your left, there is a table right when you get through the door. There's a sign-in sheet on that table. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign in. City Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Yes, Councilperson Soha.
Present.
Reiner.
Here.
Beer.
Here.
Morrissey.
Here.
Sharp.
Here.
Stuchel.
Here.
Pratt. Here. Zeitzer.
Here.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
All present.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move on to approval of agenda. Any member of council and city manager have any changes to make to the agenda tonight?
Mayor, I do have one.
Yes, sir.
It would be for an item D under new business, resolution to amend 2022 budget. It's our last meeting for the month of June, and we
Have to have the budget passed.
have
Very
to
good.
have the budget amended.
Yep.
audit purposes.
Yep, very good.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to remove communication petition number C, letter C. The young man who wrote that to me wasn't able to come. I talked to him through it, and he's just asking to drop the issues.
Okay. Any more changes? Councilman Sharp.
I would like to add the discussion of the Robert's Rules of Order under new business. So we can correct, we'll discuss it when it comes up at that time.
So Robert's rules under new business.
Correct.
Okay, do I have a motion to add amended general appropriation act resolution under new business as item D, Robert's rules under new business as item E, and to strike item C in communications petitions?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Beer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have an agenda. We'll move on to public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your trips to one at the podium. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And please make sure if you're commenting on anything that has a direct tie to something that's present on the agenda tonight. Podium is now open. Seeing no public comment, we will close the podium and move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city and BPU claims of June 2nd, payroll May 26th, June 9th, city council minutes of June 6th, finance minutes of March 7th, planning commission minutes of May 18th, code enforcement, lien special assessment roll, and then the assessing department's 2022 summer tax warrant report. Any discussion on any items in the consent agenda? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Reiner.
Yes.
Beer.
Yes.
Morrissey. Sharp.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
Sizer.
Yes.
Mayor Stocker.
Yes.
Councilperson Soha.
Yes.
All approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into communications petitions. Item number A is a Comcast letter, and unless anybody has anything to say about it, we'll just move on to item number B.
Thank you.
Item number B, Councilmember Soha email noise complaint. Robert.
So on Saturday, May 29th, there was a concert at 55 Below. It was very loud, it was vulgar, and it went on until 2:15 a.m. Chief Hefner has spoken to the people that own the building. They've leased it or sublet the underground portion of it, but there's an agreement there. If I may, Mr. Mayor, may I invite the chief to speak to that?
You may.
At this time?
You may.
Chief?
I've been in contact with both the owner and the co-owner of 55 Broad. Been informed that they have leased out event control for the lower half, and that's the entity that sponsored or allowed whatever happened that night to come in and utilize the facility for that. They were very apologetic. The owners thought the person that had control of the bottom was communicating with the city about what was gonna happen and requesting noise variance. He said that entity thought he was doing that, apologized again. We went over what needs to happen in the future regarding communication, noise variance, what will be allowed, what will not be allowed, and what will happen if they do not do so. He told me that there's no other outdoor events like that planned for this year. At the most, there would be 1 a year, and outside only 2 a year. Everything else would be inside. And again, they were good contacts, good conversations. They want to be good community members, and again, very apologetic. I have seen and heard several times by different people that the police said they weren't going to do anything that night. That is not the truth. I was even called at home that night. I was told that, I told them not to shut the event down, but to work diligently to try to get the volume turned down on that. They were down there twice to do so. First time it was reduced a little bit, second time a bit more. They were not received that well when they showed up there to try to do this. And again, I don't know who has lease control yet of that bottom, nor who the actual event people were, but my understanding is they were not from this area. So I think we're in a good position with the owners of that business, moving forward with what needs to happen if they're gonna have any type of event or music above normal like they do in that seating area on the south side of the building. They usually have a radio playing there. I told him anything other than that, they really need to do this and request a noise variance. He assured me they would do so. They want to be good community business members. So, again, we didn't get it done to everybody's satisfaction that night, but going off past precedent for as long as I've been here, we spent years dealing with Hillsdale College, having live bands in the quad, and fraternities, no communication with the city. A lot of them resulted in us having numerous contacts with them, trying to get the volume turned down because residents could hear it and weren't happy. Several of those ended up with appearance tickets issued for disturbing the peace when we couldn't make any headway, which generally got dropped at the district court level, which left us, let's keep working on this. We're at the point where anytime they have an event, we have communication, we have requests, noise variance requests for even things that probably aren't going to be a violation of any decibel levels or anything like that, but we're in that good position with them, and that's what we're working for the downtown businesses now.
Thank you, that's encouraging to hear, Chief. Any questions of the Chief while he's at the podium? I was amongst those that got complaints that night, so it was a very frustrating evening. Councilman Beer?
Does currently, on the noise variance, does the city have is it normally right around midnight? Or is it flexible?
The requests we normally get for noise variance will have an end time on them. The college is usually midnight, but I think the pub and grill, this last one, was it 1?
Midnight.
It was midnight? Whether that's a precedent or not, but generally that's what it has been.
Okay, I just don't know if we have anything in the zone.
I was, if I'm not mistaken, and the Chief would know this better than me, I thought that our noise ordinance stated 11 for noise, and the variance could result in 1 hour being tacked on that, but you couldn't go past an hour, it could only go till midnight. Am I wrong about that?
The decibel levels go by whether it's residential, commercial, industrial, of course, and those levels change at different times of the day.
Okay.
And I think the last change might be 7 p.m. It could be 10 p.m. But I know people have requested noise variance from this body for past midnight. I think you guys have had conversations saying no, midnight's late enough. So I mean, that would be completely up to you guys if the noise variance was presented to you guys, whether you thought it was reasonable or not reasonable for the area.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Beer?
Would that be something that we might want to consider sending over to the zoning committee? Well,
Planning.
To look at what, Councilman?
Well, as far as to maybe if we don't have a ordinance or just a guidance
I
for
don't think it's
future.
planning, it's more of a public safety issue. That's a,
Public safety.
yeah, planning commission is pretty much zoning based
Okay.
decision, so.
It could create an issue for the commercial fireworks show that sometimes, well, I think those are usually over between 11 and 11:30.
Yeah.
They are, but I think that's one of the reasons we've stayed away from that stuff in the past, is because of fireworks and.
I have seen this body look at each one and a few times make a determination, no, not that way. We'll decide it in variance at this time.
I was just thinking from the standpoint that gives our public safety officials more clarity and
Yeah. No, that's good to have a policy, that they can, that's easy to follow, and easy to understand, and, some of the stuff is living in a city. You live in a city, sometimes that's, in such close quarters, there's positives and negatives of living in the city, and sometimes it's sometimes the noise or people partying, celebrations throughout the years, sometimes that's one of the negatives.
And since the pandemic started, I think most cities are experiencing people wanting to have more events outdoors.
Yeah.
It's definitely become a trend.
The big thing with this one is that the language was very vulgar. You could hear it clearly around the city.
I know,
And
I was told some of the vehicles were there were registered out of Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think this was anything local or even from the state. I don't know how big as this venue to do it, but.
Okay.
So, but communication is very well with the business.
Okay, moving forward, we should be good. Thank you, Chief. Any more discussion at the council table? Seeing none, we will move on to item C in communications petition, Ted Jansen letter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There's two corrections. One, I mentioned Kiko's was Stocks Park Playground, and also it was Mike Mitchell that dissolved the Recreation Committee. To the Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, playground parks for our children create good memories, which these future parents want their children to enjoy. Our playground parks are seriously lacking in today's standards. With the exception of investments made into Sandy Beach by the Rotary Club and small investment in Cold Springs Park by the Kiwanis, there's been little investment in the park since 1960s with the rocket ship and everything else over at Waterworks Park. In fact, the city had removed the playground equipment that was at Stocks Park. With the additional funds the city will be receiving, it's time to invest in our parks for use by our children. Such investment should include handicap accessibility and safety vetting, as well as the removal of unsafe playground equipment. This equipment should be replaced with contemporary playground equipment, i.e., and also recommended Parks and Recreation Committee, which Mike Mitchell eliminated, be reestablished. Creating better playgrounds for our children is an incentive in their remaining in Hillsdale as they mature into adults and start their own families. And it's quite interesting, Hillsdale doesn't grow. We have all these kids here, and they're not starting families here, they're starting families elsewhere. And I do believe that having good playgrounds is essential. I did a survey today. At Kiko's Park, we have 2 swings. One's a baby swing. Cold Springs Park, we have the apparatus for 4 swings. There are no swings. Waterworks, there's 2 swings. One's a baby swing. Owens, you have 15 swings. No baby swings, there's empty spot. Sandy Beach, you got 2 swings, one's a baby. Stocks Park, I said, used to have swings. Used to have a basketball hoop, used to have a tennis court. Pretty poor condition. But apparently, I guess we don't want our children to go to Stocks Park, so we don't have that. And that's unfortunate. And there's so much opportunity in Hillsdale. Walking the path between West Street and Montgomery, I looked at the St. Joy, man, that should be nice if we could do tubing. We could ride tube all the way down to the Red Bridge or all the way down to 12. It's an opportunity for all to enjoy, and a feature that very few towns around here have. A dog park, a splash pad, I don't recycle water, just start going to the river. Or a skateboard park. I was in South Dakota, went passed through 2 towns, one was Sturgis, small town, except for bike week. And Sturgis had a skateboard park, a full basketball court illuminated, tennis court illuminated, and even a huge tent covered contemporary playground. Another town stop, it was Chamberlain, another small 2,000 people town. They had a splash pad. So why can't Hillsdale do it? I know we don't, unfortunately, we don't have that benefactor like Coldwater had. It'd be sweet for someone to invest millions of dollars into our parks. But the whole thing is, you want people to stay after they graduate school, raise families, you have to offer another amenity. I know that we have streets problems there, we'll always have potholes. It's not gonna change. But when are we gonna invest in good parks for people to be proud of? And I'm supportive, I think we should charge to get into Sandy Beach and Waterworks and Owens Park. Because it's, it's nice to be great for everybody in the county, but we need to start having them invest if they're gonna use our facilities. So I'm just asking you to think about that and take some of that government money and say, you know what, we need to do something. We need to upgrade the park. We have nothing for handicapped kids. No swings, no equipment, nothing. I think we need to look at that and take care of everybody. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Ted. I would just, a couple comments. One, I do happen to know that our rec director applied for a grant last year to put in some handicap accessible equipment, including a swing that would be wheelchair accessible swing, and unfortunately we didn't receive that grant. So I know there has been some discussion about that. The other thing, I think you mentioned charging to get into our parks. I don't think that with the deed that was, when that property was deeded to the city, I think one of the stipulations was we couldn't charge for anyone to access those parks. Not sure, I haven't seen the contract myself, but that was a question I had asked several years ago. Kiku's Park is open, correct? I mean, we were just over there the other day, so I know it's open. I think it's a great idea, Ted. I mean, why don't you pick up the mantle and get something going? You wanted to put a sign out there, a welcoming sign. You got all the funds for it, got it going. You're an involved citizen.
Yeah, well, I did work on Cold Springs. That's why you have the newly painted equipment back then when I lived in Kiwanis. Also, I guess, in fact, Cold Springs, the spring is just filled with weed overgrowth again. And perhaps Jason might want to ask the youth home to send their kids back there, because that's what I did with them at Cold Springs. They pulled all those ugly weeds out of that stream.
I know, I think it's a good idea, but I think also our rec director, a lot of other neighboring cities shut down their rec departments the last couple of years due to COVID, and we had a huge influx of out of city rec services move here unexpectedly, and I know that Michelle's very overwhelmed with that. But I think if you started getting out there and resourcing, you find out there are a lot of people in town that are working on those problems. I know that Key Opportunities, I know that we utilize them to help paint park equipment in the summer, and there are a lot of organizations that are working together. But Councilman Sushil, do you have something to add?
Put everybody's mind at ease. There is, the Rotary Club is actively looking to get park.
Yeah.
They're working on land here right now. They've got plans for it. They're in the fundraising process. It's gonna be a fitness park is what they're gonna call it, for little kids right on up. So that's in the works.
That sounds
People
awesome.
already- Yeah, it is. I've seen the plans. They're beautiful. It's gonna be bike racks, also they're talking about maybe a possibly pavilion. So they've got a master plan, and it'll be like Sandy Park. It'll take a couple of years to.
Sure, of course.
That's what they're gonna do in phases, just like they did Sandy Park. So it's a beautiful park. And so rest assured, active people in this town are already on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what park was that?
The Rotary is actively moving to put a park in, what you're just talking about. They're gonna call it a fitness park.
So perhaps Mary might want to consider having a committee. When you have a committee, then they also tend to raise funds and expand on their contacts with others.
That's what the Rotary Club does. They're business people, they know how to raise funds, they know how to get grants,
Right.
that's what they do. They have a committee. They
Yeah,
are.
well, I'm talking about the city committee, beyond the Rotary Club.
All right, well, thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any conversation? All right, we'll move on. We've got no introduction, adoption of ordinances, so we will move into old business, item A. Just let me get caught up in my packet.
Page 43.
Yep. Revised resolution of support for submission of a grant application for funds from the Transportation Economic Development Fund. Dave?
Yep. So this was the resolution you previously had passed for the project. It was about $500,000 for chip seal and advanced chip seal and microsurface project. After we submitted the application, they wanted the resolution to be more specific as to the roads that were considered in it. So if you look down through the resolution, it actually delineates each specific road and the amount, the length, mile, that is part of that. And so that's what's changed in this resolution. It's just more specific.
Very good. Any questions on it? Councilman Soha.
Mr. Mackey, were you able to get South Street further east? Did we discuss that at all?
They did not, because the application was submitted.
Or that argument? Okay.
Any more discussion, questions? Motion to adopt the revised resolution? Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Briner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we will move into new business. Item A, Pearl Tree LLC Land Division. I guess, Dave, where's all our staff at today? The chief's the only person here.
They hit me up when they don't have much on there and they ask me if I'll take their items, so. Trying to be a good boss. The Pearl Tree item is basically a land division item where an individual owns two particular houses. And this is basically splitting 6 feet off one of the houses so they can put a driveway in for the other house. If you go down, it's been through planning, it's been recommended, but if you go down through the application to the map, it shows the two properties and how that 5.84 feet will be split. Again, that will go to the smaller lot so that they can put in a driveway to that, similar to both properties are owned by the same individual. So, planning commission and the city staff recommend.
Both properties are owned by the same individual, but they still have to ask us for permission. I know, I get it, it's just funny, that's all. I understand. Any discussion on this? Motion to approve?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move on to item B, Mscpa bylaws and articles of incorporation. This is definitely you, Dave.
If you remember about a month ago, we had this item on the agenda to basically was receive and file. This was prior to the Union City closing all their documents to actually exit Mscpa as part of the organization. And June 1st, they were able to get all their paperwork in line. So what this does is amend the bylaws and articles of incorporation to remove Union City. We did not have any comments from anyone in the city, and the BPU board recommends that the city council update the bylaws and articles.
Any questions for Dave? Thanks, Dave. Motion to approve the amended bylaws and articles of incorporation?
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Beer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we'll move on to item number C. Carla Adams FOIA appeal. Carla's here, I see she just walked in. You wanna come up to the podium, Carla? So not our rules, under FOIA rules, you know, if you file a FOIA document with the city or any other organization, most, if not all, cities or counties will charge for them. But under the FOIA law, you can, if the person believes that it's if it's a subject that the importance is so great that it's basically a service to people to FOIA it and get it out there, then they have the right to come to whatever the governing body could be. In our case, it's us. We've already done one of these before, Mr. Hendy, if you guys don't remember. So Carla, it looks like, was charged $76.34 for a FOIA, and she is appealing that. So Carla, did you wanna?
Yeah, sure. So what I was asking for, and this is dated March 24th, I was requesting policy and procedure for the roundup billing process for BPU, the disclosure to the public and application. When it came to fruition, the account balance for each year, the things and the amount that the accounts were used for, and the balance now. Please provide the documentation for the roundup from the BPU policy book. When I picked up my information, it was actually $76.74, 19 copies at 10 cents each, and 4 hours of work cost $18.71. What I received was, it didn't say why or why not. I did not receive anything, basically, in my opinion. I received these documents right here, which was started 1/11/2017 to 3/17/2022. These are check numbers, there is no account numbers. Operation Roundup, and then there's some amounts, but what I was asking for was the total amount that had been allocated, how much had been spent, and where the policy was for how Community Action Agency receives this money. I also received meeting notes. I could have gotten those myself. And I received a paper that says the rates for electric. In these meeting notes is a bunch of information that's not mine, not related to my FOIA. Balances and stuff that was whatever, Michigan CAT, Michigan Gas, Michigan Municipal. There's no explanations on any of these. FYE 2008 audit, wage review comparison, BPU vehicle policy, the roundup. So here's my part. Staff has presented a proposal for a customer assistance program utilizing the roundup dollar strategy to raise funds to be distributed by local nonprofits. With the current economic situation that we're still in, any and every safety net program will be required by many of our citizens. Education of the program would take place November and December with a potential go-live date of January 1st. The program would be an opt-out program, which means that every account will be put on the program and would have to contact the BPU to opt out. I'm not in favor of that, you all know that. There wasn't on the application, so pretty much that's what I received. And more documents from meeting notes. Nothing really that pertains to my request. My request is, where's the policy that you use that come up with it? I'm understanding that that BPU has a contract with Domestic Harmony. When I went back to BPU, I was told to go to David Mackey. David Mackey said there isn't a policy, so I'm requesting my money back.
So Dave, am I to understand that we denied the FOIA request?
No, we did not. We provided some information, but it was not what she was looking for. Unfortunately, it's not for us to decide what we find, we give them. And if it's not what they want, there's not much we can do about it, or if we don't find what they're looking for. As the invoice stated, they spent 4 hours trying to find the information that was on the request. This was all done probably 10, 12 years ago, and under multiple or people prior to the current staff, and the information other additional information could not be found. But they spent the hours researching it, both the human resource director, the office manager, the finance person, they all spent time on this, and we just provide what we're able to find.
Okay.
But we did spend the time, as is reflected in the invoice.
Okay.
I also went to the Community Action Agency, they're non-FOIA-able, that's what they told me. So I still have yet to find a policy and procedure manual for this program.
They're non-FOIA-able.
Yes, that's what they told me, they're 501c3, it's a non-for-profit, I can't FOIA them, they're not a government entity. BPU doesn't hold it, they said that the city holds it through BPU. I also found out that the municipality, that we own that, is that correct, we own BPU?
We own the Board of Public Utilities, yes.
So why doesn't the customers get a dividend? We actually get a service charge instead, and then I found out it was actually bonded. Did we ever actually physically own it, and who bonded it out? I mean, it just keeps getting deeper. The moral of the story is, when you have 13,000 residents and businesses adding to this Roundup program, and there's no disclosure to where it's going, how it's being used, and if we own it, I mean, this is, it's digging a raw root, I guess would say.
No, I actually agree with you 100%. This city should not be giving money to Community Action Agency from our Board of Public Utilities.
Thank you.
We give money to Domestic Harmony, it comes before council every year, and we vote on it. We shouldn't be just handing money over to Community Action Agency every single year. Taking it from residents that have no idea half the time that it's coming out of their electric bill and giving it to Community Action Agency to pay for people that aren't paying their own electric bill.
Thank you.
It's irritating to me. I agree with you 100%. That's regardless of the FOIA and all that, but I agree 100% with that.
Well, the specifics to my FOIA was, how come none of this, it doesn't answer it. There is no policy. There's no way to get the policy. 4 hours for meeting notes, but my information still hasn't been answered.
Well, we should figure out. I can tell you it was around long before me, and it was around long before Dave. This Operation Roundup's been going on a long time, so it wasn't anything that was instituted by this current council or Board of Public Utilities, or the current Board of the Public Utilities. It's not a new program. It's something that's been in place for a long time, but I've never liked it. Jack, did you have something to add?
I think it's safe to assume if they didn't find a policy doesn't exist. And again, part of the frustration for Ms. Adams is that she believed she was asking for something, expecting she would receive something. Things don't always exist the way you'd like them to. Certainly it sounds like, and knowing those involved with creating this program and sort of how untidy they were with their record keeping, I guess I'm not that surprised that there isn't. Certainly, this council has the power to take it up on a you'd have to bring it up on a different agenda.
Sure.
To tell the BPU to stop this. But in terms of the appeal, it's up, the council can decide whether they want to waive this fee or not. When somebody asks for something, when somebody sincerely asks for something that they believe exists, and time is spent looking for it, and it doesn't exist, and it isn't legally required to exist, I think we have a right to charge. But the council has a right to say, hey, in this instance, a little egg on our face anyway, because of this whole program. If you guys want to waive it, you can waive it.
No, I get that too, and I think we have a right to charge for FOIAs. I
Sure.
mean, they
Yeah.
take time to complete, so I don't,
Right.
I'm not arguing that. I just.
And I was just pointing
this
out that
Operation
in this
Roundup
case, I think she sincerely believed that there was a policy there, and there isn't. And so,
So if we've just been giving money to Community Action Agency with no policy, with no direction, that needs to stop. That is ridiculous. That is our residents' money that we're just taking, up to 99 cents. I know it's not a lot of money, but it is almost theft. I don't have another word for it. It's theft. We're taking the money, we're giving it to Community
I
Action.
think what you should do is put it on the agenda for the next meeting. You discuss whether or not you wanna have people be able to opt in. There may be people, if you send out a flyer, say, yeah, I'll do that. Just so you know, places like Rite Aid, without really telling you, do it to you every time you shop.
I know that,
So
Jack,
and
but
now you have to
they're not a
opt out.
government
No,
agency.
Well, I get it, and then I'm just saying.
I know.
And again, nobody in this room had anything to do with creating this
I know.
program. I didn't even know it existed until today. So, again, the point of this is, there are times when you ask for things and you truly believe they exist and they don't, and time is spent. But, the council has the discretion to say, in this case, we're gonna waive the fee or we're not.
No, I know. I understand everything you're saying.
Addressing the program itself is gonna have to be for another meeting.
Yes. And I really think that needs to
It might be the next meeting.
because there's no policy in place.
Right.
If they wanna come to us like Domestic Harmony does every year, say, we need this help, we need, and,
Here's
you
the
know.
difference, there's specific legislation that allows municipal entities to give money to
Domestic.
battered women shelters.
Yes.
There is not for community action agencies, so I think we need to be careful. No, BPU decides it wants the council to approve a program whereby BPU customers can opt in, after they can fill out a form that says, yeah, round up my bill to the nearest dollar, and take that money and give it to a community action agency for assistance with people who are struggling to pay their electric bills. Fine. But I think you gotta be a little careful. It's not the same thing as domestic harmony because there's no specific legislation.
I will tell you, I know how it got started, because I know before this man came along, and before the council, before this council came along, BPU did whatever the hell they wanted. So, Councilman Zeiser.
If I may address the city attorney,
Yes.
I don't wanna put words into your mouth, but do you believe the program as it's currently constituted is legally suspect? Because you can't affirmatively opt in, you have to opt out?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's problematic that it was an opt-out thing, and there probably was not a lot of, again, we have to go back 12, 15 years, whatever, I can figure out, and again, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of records in connection with it.
Can I say something too? So I went down just to do my private investigation and act as a new applicant, and I was going to have to do my application with the person that was at the desk. And I did get a copy of it. There was no opt-in or no opt-out as of February 2022. Now, I've been addressing the board 3 times since then, but there was no opt-in or an opt-out at that time.
Well, the council gave specific orders to create to switch the policy to an opt-in, but I think at this point, knowing that there's not even a policy that exists, I think at this point it's time to dissolve the whole thing. And
Yeah,
community
because
action can come to us and ask, moving forward. That would be my suggestion. David, you have something to add? Sorry.
I would just say there's specific legislation that allows for this, and this board needs to educate itself more on that legislation, because the BPU board is actually working on this item, and has been since you gave it direction. So they've been working on their webpage, they've been working on a letter, and I think it might have went out recently, if not, it's going out, that's giving the people the option to opt out if they were automatically opted in. So there are things being done on this, but like Mr. Levenger indicated, that's an item for another day. Here we're just, considering the FOIA appeal.
Yes, I understand that. Councilman
I mean,
Tyson.
addressing the FOIA appeal specifically, I would like to thank Ms. Adams, regardless of how you feel about this program. It is a good thing that we've unearthed more details. I don't mean this personally. I think I am inclined to say that we should charge for it. Part of my reasoning is that you kind of got the answer you were looking for, and that there is no policy. So I think it's reasonable. Work was done by city employees to look at this. So I think we have to be pretty judicious when we say that we're going to waive those fees, but I think we got our answer. And however we feel about it, it's now something that the BPU board is discussing, which is heartening, and now that the council is discussing it.
Councilman Sharp.
I agree with Councilman Zeiser. Work was done on it. We have an appeal by Joe Henking, we turned him down. And if we set precedent now, we're gonna open up the gate to other things. If we're gonna take city staff time to do something, they should be charged.
Can I say something?
You may, but, go ahead.
So if I was in the checkout line and I put my groceries onto the conveyor belt, I would assume that everything that was on my receipt would be in my bag as I left, which is what I thought when I picked up this documentation from the clerk. It didn't say this is out, this is out, this is out. So I have a new FOIA that I use that says why are we not for each item. I should have used it specifically for this one because then I would have seen clearly yes, no, and why not. I wouldn't have picked this up had it not been in there. So let me just leave that to be really clear because I was looking at a lawsuit. And since there is no policy and procedure, that opens up a whole nother ballgame for all the residents in this town. Another thing, since there is legislation, I believe, as Mr. Mackey said, it wasn't included, so therefore I feel like I was robbed. Twice.
Any more discussion? Okay, I'm not sure how to do this. I can't remember how we did it. We either need a motion to approve it.
You're gonna either going to grant the appeal.
Yes, so we need a motion to grant appeal, or we need a motion to deny the appeal.
Okay, granting the appeal has effect of waiving the fee.
Okay. Okay, so we can either have a motion to grant the appeal or deny the appeal. And that's going to determine whether you vote yes or no and what yes or no means.
I make a motion to deny the appeal.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Soha to deny the appeal. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Beer,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt,
No.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
No.
Councilperson Soha,
Yes.
and Briner.
Yes.
7-2.
Yeah.
Your appeal's denied.
Okay,
Thank
can
you,
I
Paula.
can I ask one more question before I go? Since there is a policy and procedure for this on state legislature, could I have that, please? Do I have to write a new FOIA for that?
You would, or just look it up yourself. You're a very investigative person, so.
I don't think there is a policy and procedure in the legislation. There is an enabling statute that I haven't read it, but it probably authorizes local utilities to engage and be able to start a program with this. There may be also other requirements in it. I don't happen to have a citation. My guess is Mr. Mackey would probably provide it to you. Would ask me.
It would be interesting. Thank you.
Well, legislation or not, domestic harmony comes here every year and asks us, every single year. If we approve or deny. So. Anyways, appeal denied. Let's move on to item D, which is Amended General Appropriations Act Resolution. Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the last amendment to the budget for the year. This basically brings the last items in line for the audit. This one in particular adds about $64,000 out of the general fund balance to police and fire, which breaks down to the police, some additions in supplies, about $10,000 in fuel, some contracted services and capital outlay, and then the fire department for part-time and overtime, 23,000, fuel an additional 4,000, and repairs to the fire trucks that have exceeded the budget. So that amount totals 64,000. And then in the recreation fund, Fund 208, we increased the revenues by $18,804 and expenditures by $15,804, which increased the fund balance about $3,000. These are the last budget amendments for the year to make sure all our budgets are under what's been appropriated.
Very good, Dave. Any questions? Councilman Soha?
And the tongue in cheek, but is 14 grand enough for fuel?
Yeah.
Yes, they did take a look at this, and this is just to get through this budget year. So fuel might be an item that we have to look at next year as well, because when we put the budget together, we were looking at $6 a gallon diesel or $5.50 on Reddit gasoline. So this item, just know that.
That's
from-
just for 22.
Yes. Correct. It's through June 30th, so. Yep.
Any more questions? Motion to approve this amended general appropriations resolution?
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Beer, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. May I have a roll call, City Clerk?
Councilmember Morrissey?
Yes.
Sharp?
Yes.
Stuchel?
Yes.
Pratt?
Yes.
Sizer?
Yes.
Mayor Stockford?
Yes.
Councilperson Soha?
Yes.
Reiner?
Yes.
And Beer.
Yes.
It's 9-0. That's resolution 3508.
Thank you, Katie. 3508.
Correct.
Thank you. We'll move on to item E, Robert's Rules of Order discussion. Councilman Sharp.
Yes, the last council meeting we had, it got out of control. Not only on our end, but with the audience. We need to follow the Robert's Rules of Order, which when I was first on council, we did, and then we slowly started getting away from it. We need to go back to that. We cannot have a train wreck like we had the last time. We need to follow that rules and stay in it. We cannot have a debate with the crowd. When it's council's turn to talk, it should be council's turn to talk, and that's it, not getting involved in the crowd. If it happens again, this is where the mayor has to have the police chief remove that person from this room, because the meetings are getting out of control. We can't have this anymore. We are here to run a meeting and run it orderly, and follow the Robert's Rules of Order, which I have sent to all you guys as a cheat sheet from Katie. We got it sent to everybody to understand that. We're here to run a meeting and be professional. We weren't that last time, and we can't have that anymore. And I know you tried to nip it in the bud a couple times. Well, now it's my turn to mark and say, this has gotta stop. We've got a meeting here to run, let's be professional too, on our end also. Let's not engage the crowd. Let's just say let them say what they gotta say when it's a public comment, and that's it. And then we say our say, and if they start barking back at us, that's where Chief Hepner has to remove them. And that's the way it has to be. I believe that's the way we should be following it from now on. That's why tonight you didn't see me jump in, I kept my mouth shut, raised my hand, and I will follow it and respect it, because that's the Robert's Rules of Order.
Just so you're aware, this council has never, I was told this by Lou Lauren. This council has never passed a resolution saying that it will follow Robert's Rules of Order. And there's a reason. I think.
Well, we have council rules, right?
Yeah, council rules.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you follow your council rules, and if you continue to have disruptive meetings, now tonight's meeting wasn't particularly disruptive.
No.
Things were very, and believe me, I sat through 4 hours in person and watched 3 hours in person of that library meeting. Tensions were high. The big drawback with Robert's Rules of Order is you better go. And you also better have an appointed parliamentarian. And who wants to be that?
Correct.
Okay. I think your council rules of order, the mayor can say, as he does at the beginning of the meeting, the initial public comment is for agenda items only. Mayor may also say, while council deliberates on any item after public comment, the public, unless invited to the podium to make a comment, or a member of the city staff, unless invited to the podium, are not welcome to engage and participate in the deliberation way to do it, and again, I think what you had was a huge group of people who were real fired up, and they didn't care about rules. So perhaps the message to be sent is, if you have another hot button issue, is right off the bat, say, sure, I know you people are passionate about this, but there are rules here, and you will not interrupt the council while they deliberate. And again, it's best if council members don't interrupt each other, and for the most part, you guys don't seem to do that. So the Robert's rules is, you know, they're great when everybody is really educated in them, but they can also be a bit of a problem if people aren't, or you get caught up on some procedural issue that you guys spend enough time here as it is. Robert's rules can cause you to be here longer and more frustrated. So not saying you shouldn't have rules, but just keep that in mind.
I think, you know, I think we gotta use discretion, and I think, you know, I run into spots too where I end up, somebody's saying something and I'm really listening to them, I look down, they've been talking for 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and then I feel like, well, how do I tell the next person they've gotta get down after 5? Just always strive to be fair with everybody. And, you know, our last meeting was crazy. It was nothing compared to that library meeting though. Like, there was a woman standing at the podium screaming at one of the library members, swearing at them, saying, you know, vulgarity after vulgarity. She would have done that here.
No, she was here.
She didn't do that here.
She
though.
didn't.
She would have done that here. She would have been
Sorry.
walked out. So. Councilman Sharp.
We do get very passionate here, sometimes between each other. We just do not need to share it with the crowd. We need to be professional here. We're elected to be that way. We have to follow the rules, even if they're not the Robert rules. We gotta be respectful. We cannot engage the crowd. That can never happen.
We gotta set an example.
Right.
So, I
We
agree. with
gotta
you.
take the high road.
Yep, I agree with you. Any more discussion on this item? Councilman Soha? You may.
On the website, is it posted somewhere in the
Council rules?
They're in there. They're in there.
I want to revisit that. I assume that just. Thank you.
Sorry.
Great.
Boy,
We'll get there.
thank you. Any more discussion? All right. We've got no proclamations. We've got several appointments to the library board. Stephanie Myers. I don't want to do this airport advisory committee one, Jordan Adams. I'll tell you what happened here. I'm sorry, Katie.
Okay.
Jordan reached out to me, said, wanted to be appointed to the library board. I said, I already have an appointment. He said, well, I don't understand. I put in an application months ago. And so I contacted Katie and I said, I'd never seen this Jordan Adams application. Anyways, turns out Katie ended up finding it. He did turn it in a long time ago. So I had sent him an email and said, Jordan, would you like to be appointed to the airport advisory board? Thought he would say yes. Never got back a hold of me. So I don't want to make an appointment from somebody that hasn't given verification. Although he did say that he was interested in serving on any board that he appointed him to. I was in correspondence with him, and then all of a sudden that correspondence stopped. And I like Jordan. I think he's a good guy. But I have not got verification from him about being put on the airport advisory committee. So let's strike that one. And if he actually gets a hold of me and says, yes, I am interested, then we can move forward at that point. We need a couple more people on that board. Economic Development Corporation, Sam is a reappointment. Tax Increment Finance Authority, Cindy, Darren, Greg, all reappointments. So, sure. Any questions? Motion to appoint them all, other than Jordan?
Yes. Someone.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we'll move into general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to one to the podium, and you can speak on whatever you like at this time. The podium is now open.
Penny Swan, Ward 4. I apologize
out of turn last meeting. It was a hot topic and felt engaged, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry. And I just sent you via messenger your.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Benny. Any more public comment?
Rick Nichols, Adams Township Supervisor. Carla, thank you for bringing to attention, because we have in Adams Township people that do get serviced by BPU. So I'm interested in that topic, even though, as Mayor Stockford mentioned, that it's a small amount. Still, if it's being taken from someone unawares or unwillingly, I appreciate the sentiment that you're looking at this, and I just want to encourage you to continue to look at it on behalf of the people in Adams that do get serviced by BPU. Along with that, you mentioned the domestic harmony comes to you. They also come to Adams. I am aware in this instance that the law had been changed some time ago so that we governmental bodies could give such entities. I still personally remain opposed to that, but encourage anybody that's a constituent to give if they wish, to be aware of the services that are provided by these various entities, and do so of their own goodwill and out of their own pocket, rather than us taking tax money, give to who, something people may not want to give to. The same might be true for Community Action Agency. Maybe a great agency, I don't know a lot about them, honestly. And I'm not meaning to belittle domestic harmony either. I'm sure that they do some good service, but I shared with the county commissioners a time ago, and Commissioner Ingalls was good enough to let me know that he read it, and had a slight discussion on it, and that's the story of Davy Crockett when he served in the Congress. I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but he got reprimanded by a constituent for giving of the taxpayers' money for specific things that really weren't governmental. I'd be happy to share that with any of you if you haven't heard the story. If you have, it's not a bad story to hear again. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the work you guys do.
Thank you, Mark. Just so we're clear, we don't give money to domestic harmony, we contract with domestic harmony for a service. That's what I think the difference is between this and community action. Dennis?
Yes. Dennis Wainscott, Hillsdale. I'm thinking back to what Carla's asking, for that. I know it's been already done, but being on the board for the taxation, they got certain priorities too, that 25, 50, 75, 100%. And everything that we do, there is a possibility of mistakes or things being overlooked, anything that's possible. And maybe sometime you might want to look at this FOIA deal. And I listened to both of you, and both of you, there was things missing, maybe on both sides. And maybe you ought to think about, for the constituent that is asking for the FOIA, along with you being the council, that you might want to consider, maybe it wouldn't hurt to have a 25, 50, 75, or 100% refund thing if it does, if there's something wrong there. If it's a legitimate wrong, you don't have to give everything back. But if it's, a portion of it, it might not hurt to look into that. And as far as, the people out here hearing us, or hearing what you have to say, that's what we come here for. We come here for that purpose, to hear what we voted for, and that's you guys to be here, to be our representatives. So I think we do have a right as constituents to hear whether it's good or bad, so, that's one reason why you can't go in a closed session without, voting on going into a closed session yet. As long as you're in an open session, we should be able to hear whatever comes out of your mouth while you're sitting there. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis. Any more public comment? Seeing none, I close the podium, move into city manager's report. Dave.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a few things to mention. Probably one of the more exciting things that's going on in preparation for is a train tour, and I know you're aware of this, Mayor, that will be bringing a lot of people to our downtown area. The Tri-State Scenic Steam Excursion, which is 2 days, the 2 different runs to Hillsdale, August 27th and 28th from Eaton, Ohio. We'll leave there in Ohio and arrive here around 11:30, and then they'll have about a 3-hour delay here in Hillsdale. So we have a group of folks who are working with them, Kelly LaPresto and others, to kind of plan events or things for them to visit, tours, coordinating food, because there's Saturday and Sunday. There might, there was some concern that there would not be food nearby that they would be able to get off their train ride and get. But they're expecting somewhere between probably 600 to 650 people a day that they'll be bringing. And they've already pre-sold tickets. And so they're just on the train ride, they're talking about 450 to 500 people. And then they also see about 200 people that follow in cars. So the committee that's working on this, is trying to put Hillsdale's best foot forward, and in the hopes that this will be an annual event from this train excursion. So very exciting news. Some other things going on, just to let you guys know, EDC did sell another lot in Three Meadows, so another house will be built. This is a private sale out there. We did close the sales of the land in the Manufacturing and Technology Park to Stoll and the other private purchaser. So those are both closed, and the city has deposited those funds into our reserve account. We have basically, the EDC has 2 lots left in Three Meadows, one large one directly west of the medical facility, and then one single family, and then they additionally have 50 acres there. That's on the north side of it, that they're discussing what the plans are for that, whether they try to sell that off or hold on to it. I know that's on their upcoming meeting agenda. We did on Friday have our movies in the park. It wasn't the best attended, but it was a very hot week. Our next one is July 8th, somewhere around 9:30 to 9:45. So hopefully we'll have a little better attendance on this one. So I'll remind everyone that first meeting in July, which will be the 5th, and then on July 8th, we'll have our next movie in the park. Just an FYI, Sandy Beach is actually, my understanding that from the rec director, is opening tomorrow officially, as far as tickets go and passes and those type things, and concessions. We've had a devil of a time with staffing. As we all know, there was a recent article in the Hillsdale Daily News about staffing issues within the county and the community. And when you're working with teenagers and sports and college students, we kind of got sidetracked there, but that will be opening officially tomorrow, in the hopes that in the upcoming years we'll get a quicker jump on that to try to alleviate some of the staffing issues. And then also we're just planning our audit, which takes place after July 1. So that's the things we have going on.
Awesome, great stuff, Dave. Any questions for Dave? That railroad thing is really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so geeked about that.
Should be pretty nice.
Any questions for Dave? Council comment? Anybody have anything interesting? Councilman Soha?
Just to
speak to the railroad thing. Rotary's working diligently with the committee to try to help organize things, so there's a lot of community involvement and work in this to make it shine. My hope is that it is successful so that those green colors will come back every year. To Ms. Adams, yeah.
It'd be nice to get some of those Ohio dollars.
Yeah, back.
Back, into Michigan.
And Fort Wayne.
Yes, yes.
But it's not personal, we did the work. I'm sorry it wasn't what you expected. But I do want to say, I echo whoever thanked you for bringing it to you, bringing it to our attention, because it's necessary that it was brought to our attention, and I'm grateful for that. So, the echo with the tax money and domestic harmony, that's not a donation, right? So, and then I would favor us discussing or doing a public hearing or whatever we would have to do for the BPU to, I know they're already addressing it, but to come, if there's no policy, that there would be something in writing how these monies, if people opt into it, are gonna be accounted for. I don't know if that's something we can do. We can figure it out before the next council meeting, but I'm for that. And I appreciate the BP doing it, but I think it's urgent.
Councilman Sharp?
Speaking of council meeting, July 5th, is there much on the agenda?
Not at this point, no.
We'll cancel if there's not much on the agenda, okay?
I would love that.
Anybody got anything else?
Well, I am officially retired from Clemens, so I won't be falling asleep here anymore. So, I will also be forewarned, city staff, I'm now available. Pay you visits, and I will.
You will. Since when have you not been available to come and pay visits?
The last couple months,
Yeah.
it's been hard, but I'll be back out there. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody have anything else? Sorry, Ray, go ahead.
We're in council comment now.
We're in council comment.
I just want to say thank you to BPU and the local fire department. We had some excitement during the storm down my street where power line was down. I think the fire department was there within 5-10 minutes, and BPU was there within the hour. Had the power shut off, turned back on, all within like an hour and 15 minutes. So it was that's one thing that I love about living in the city and having local utilities right close by. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bronner. I just want to say, Mr. Jansen said that he didn't see the city growing and that young families weren't moving here, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think after 2020, I think with the crazy stuff going on in the world, I need new young families weekly almost, with lots of kids. So I think we are growing, and I think the next census, we'll see 2030, we will see the difference, because I think we're on an upswing. I think there's lots of young people wanting to move here and moving here and raise families here. So, anything else?
I agree with that, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
Clemens now has 1,200 people working there, and they've got no place to put these people they're bringing in. So there is growth, and it's gonna start working over towards Hillsdale. The people that can't find housing over in Coldwater, it's coming this way. So the growth is growing. So you got old shanty, old house, fix it up. And I'm still not gonna give up on the Public Services Committee on the citywide trash thing. That's on my radar. And I'm looking forward to coming to the meeting whenever you guys have it. Other than that, and I move to adjourn.
Tony's got something.
I'm just I'm not involved in that, Rick Cook-off is coming up on Saturday. And I think County National is one of the sponsors, and, White House. And they have I heard they have 20-some contestants, and, they have some bands, and it's a good story.
Exciting. Any more council comment?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Bronner to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.
Almost got you.